Is Blood Feast a significant film when it comes to horror cinema history? Absolutely. Is it any good?
She was good!
Yes, today I'm reviewing Herschel Gordon Lewis's 1963 cult classic, Blood Feast, and to say that this film made quite a splash when it was released would be an understatement. This changed the game for low-budget exploitation films because now they saw that you could attain success with the red stuff. And oh boy does this film have a lot of red stuff.
Gives me the shivers.
So without further ado, what is this film about? Gore. But, I mean, I have to fill out an entire video, so I'll go through the plot. The film starts with a woman coming into her apartment after a long day of work, and the first thing she does is that she opens up the radio, where she hears a news report about a serial killer on the loose. At first she seems petrified by the news report, and then she remembers, oh yeah, I have to get clean. So she goes into the washroom, and we get one of her first of many granny panty shots. After we almost see the side of a breast, she gets into her bath, where we will meet our killer for the day, Fouad Ramzi, who looks to be a man in his 30s who just put a bunch of baby powder in his hair to make it look grey. And he rips out the woman's eye, and then we cut to our title sequence. After that, we meet our police officers who will be on the case to find who the serial killer is. And one of them will have a romantic relationship with our main character who's still in college. We then cut to Fouad Ramzi, and we can finally see him in his full form, which is the form of an absolute psychopath. He really has these weird eyes that just stare into your soul, and he runs a deli, grocery store counter thing. And a lady comes to his store because he also runs a catering business to ask him to cater her daughter's party. And Ramzi has quite the idea, an Egyptian feast. And the lady at the counter is quite ecstatic about that because her daughter really likes Egyptian culture. Also, her daughter is our main character, the same one that dates the creepy old police officer, but we won't meet her until 24 minutes into the film. After they're done doing their business, Ramzi goes into the back of his shop where we see the statue of the goddess Ishtar. And Ramzi really likes Ishtar. You could almost say he's obsessed with her. He is. He's gonna murder people and build a cannibal feast around the idea of the goddess Ishtar.
I am your slave.
Later that night, a young couple is making out on the beach, and you know exactly where this is going. Ramzi pops out of nowhere, kills the girl, and then we get to see the most amazing piece of acting in this film.
Everything happened so fast!
The next day, the police are doing their police business, and who gives a shit? Honestly, like most of these types of films, it's a lot about the police procedures, and there's a lot of these two cops just saying stuff in their office in this film. It's really formulaic. To summarize what they're saying, basically the victim, the girl that was killed with her boyfriend on the beach, well, she's part of this book club. And the police realize that, oh, the victim that we saw at the beginning of this film was also part of that book club. How many of these women that got killed were part of the book club? Didn't anybody put 1 and 2 together? 5 out of the 8 victims were part of a book club. It might have to do something with the book club. But the police in this aren't really competent. After that, we get some more of Ramzi's cooking, and Jesus Christ, people, don't let him cook. And of course, after that, because we haven't had a kill in like 5 minutes, we get a sailor who brings his girlfriend to a motel, he brings her to the room, and then he leaves. He cock blocks himself, I guess. And of course, Ramzi's there, he pops out of nowhere, knocks on the door, and we get the most famous scene of this film. And the one I'm talking about is the tongue ripping, which honestly, even to this day, looks pretty gosh darn good. Gosh darn, what am I, a family channel? It looks pretty fucking cool. But Ramsey made a mistake. You see, she didn't die from that. She was left pretty disfigured and she's forced to wear a bandage all over her face, a la Tumbling Doll of Flesh. I never would have thought of making a Tumbling Doll of Flesh reference in a goddamn Urshel Gordon Lewis movie review. In between that, we get to meet our main character after 25 minutes, and it's Suzette. Suzette. It's not important. And she is played by Connie Mason, who was, I think either before or after this, a Playboy model, which is another thing this film pioneered, which is the use of a model in a horror film whenever that model wishes to expand her career. But what's not impressive is Connie's acting, which definitely got better by the time she was in 2000 Maniacs, which is a film that I love and I'll definitely talk about it in a later date.
It's terrible.
After we are introduced to her, she goes into class. So it's a lecture about Egyptian culture, and the professor mentions Ishtar, and he basically gives us the entire backstory of what Ramsey wants to do with Connie. In the class, there's also the police officer that is dating Connie's character, and again, it's weird. And after that, they talk a bit and they go on a ride where, of course, they do like any other teenagers in their 30s, which is making out in a convertible. But good old Copper gets a call and he needs to go back to the office. His friend, the police officer, tell him that the last victim is still alive, so they go to the hospital, and the victim mentions that the guy that killed her, well, attacked her, had crazy eyes, and he said that he did it for Ishtar. To which our police officer is like, that sounds familiar. Bro, you were in a class about Ishtar and the blood feast like 30 minutes ago. How can you not put that together? He is such an imbecile, and it's so frustrating. Like, dude, you could have stopped the entire film from happening if you just like, oh yeah, but no, he's like, that sounds familiar. Anyways, he's actually too busy thinking about fucking a college girl instead of doing his goddamn job.
What do you think she meant by Etar?
I don't know.
After that, we get gals swimming. Connie is there with her friends in her mother's pool and they're swimming. Then they're talking, then one of them leaves, and of course she gets attacked by Ramsey. We go back to the cops, they talk, the older cop leaves, and then the boyfriend calls, Connie, and then Connie mentions that she actually knows what's going on for her party. It's gonna be an Egyptian feast and something about Ishtar. And then the cop doesn't figure it out. He is such an incompetent piece of shit. Then we cut to Ramsey being Ramsey. By that I mean he's torturing the girl he just kidnapped by whipping her. All of that while the Ishtar statue looks directly at them. So did Urshel Gordon Lewis pioneer cuckolding porn too? That's something to think about. Then we go back to the cop after he smoked like an entire pack of cigarettes and he's like, oh shit, Ishtar? Brilliant.
Etar. Ishtar.
He calls the professor who did the lecture earlier in the film. The professor explains him, and he finally puts 1 and 2 together. Is that the expression 1 and 2? I don't know. He goes to Ramsey's store. Ramsey is of course not there because it's Connie's party, and they discover the butchery in the back of Ramsey's store. And then we finally get to Connie's party, and Ramsey wants to do something with Connie. So he takes her away from the group, sits her down on a countertop, and she acts like a kid. She's like, oh, this is so much fun. What's fun about laying down on a countertop? And then Ramsey tells her, oh, close your eyes and say what I'm saying, which is basically a prayer to Ishtar. During that time, he takes out a goddamn machete and, well, Connie's mom walks in. He is of course petrified, he runs away, and then our cops finally show up. Connie tells them what happened, she takes a while. Ramsey's just running away while she's just telling the entire backstory of what just happened, but the cops finally run after Ramsey, and Ramsey finds himself in a dump and he is crushed in the back of a dump truck. Then our cop says a wonderful line,
He died a fitting death. The garbage he was.
and then the other cop basically just says exposition. He tells the audience what they just saw. I think, like, man, we don't need the exposition. You're the one too stupid to figure out about Etar and Ishtar, dude. You're the one who needs an exposition dump, not us.
Well, Frank, I kept remembering the name Etar.
So, what do I think about Blood Feast? Now, obviously, I've seen this film a couple of times. I'm a big fan of film history, and this, especially in the sense of horror, is really important. Is it the best gore film ever made? Absolutely not. The gore effects are kind of showing their age. The acting and everything that surrounds this film isn't really good. It's cheesy, it's over the top, the acting is bad, the music is kind of a slapper but not for good reasons, the audio isn't that good, but it's a fun ass movie. It's one that's so short and honestly it flies by, and you don't regret it watching, and you don't regret watching it after, especially if you're a history nerd. So no, it's not a good movie, but it's still a really enjoyable one. So if you haven't seen it yet, somehow, go check it out. It's like free on Tubi right now. This is not an ad, YouTube. This Tubi didn't pay me. They're just really cool and it's free. So yeah, see you guys next time.